Prakasham Mumukshurvai Sharanamaham Prapadye. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamshirishibhyo Mahabhyo Namo Gurubhyah Sarvopaplavarahitaha Prajnanakana Pratyagartho Brahmaivahamasmi Brahmaivahamasmi. Vedantartha Vibhasakaya Gurave Shantaya Sannyasine Nanavadi Nagendra Sanghapavaye Yogindra Vandyaya Cha Mohadvanta Divakaraya Bhagavatpadabhidham Bibhrate Tasmai Bhashyakృతే Namostu Satatam Purnaya Bodhatmane. Mahadeva, Mahadeva. Yes.
So Swamiji, the first question is from Srimati Avanti ji. She wants to know what is a prayer. When God gives us what we deserve, then what should we pray for? Then some prayers are answered and some are not answered. There is a second part to this question. And she said, is everything is predestined? Then should somebody be performing Homa, Yajna to avoid negativity? And some people tie threads like black thread and all. And then there is a further, and Swamiji, what is a seeker's prayer? So basically, when you're praying, what should one person ask for?
Avanti, prayer is an instrument. Prayer is a path through which one can discover God. What you are praying for depends on what you want. A person who wants to get married will pray for a wife. A person who wants to have wealth will pray for money. A person who wants health will pray for health. Therefore, depending upon what is it that is the demand of the person will pray for. But another more important aspect of the prayer is dependent upon your understanding of yourself and God. When you see yourself as a very small entity, subjected to the experiences of this world, good and bad, of success and failure, pleasurable and unpleasant experiences. This is what you see yourself as. If you find yourself as a small entity against the whole world, because it is from this whole world that you are trying to extract your moments of joy. And there are several factors which seem to be preventing you, obstructing you from your small moments of joy. If this is what you see yourself and the world as, then obviously your prayer is going to be towards some higher entity who can be your boss and who can be the boss even of the situations. And maybe your supplication over there is going to make the boss change the situations for you. Now, this is totally dependent. A prayer is dependent on the person who is praying in two ways. One is what he is praying for, and the other one is what does he discover himself to be. If he discovers himself as a part of this world, not against this world, or not that he discovers himself as the world against him and his will, his wish, his desire. He discovers himself as a part of this world where there is a scheme as how he can meet his desired objects by arranging the elements of the world around him. Now he is better than the first person. Because in the first case, when a person sees the world against him, he visualizes himself as a victim. And when he sees himself against the world, because the world is trying to prevent and he is hell-bent on squeezing out what he wants. Now he becomes an angry person, wanting to teach the world a lesson, wanting to dominate the world. Yeah, what else is terrorism? And anything that goes as this form of spirituality is nothing but terrorism in training, where you want to dominate the world. But the person that we are talking about is now a person who sees himself as a part of this world. And by that very virtue, now he understands being an integral part of the world. I am connected to the world. And this connection is something through which the world can provide me what I want. And if the world has to provide you what you want, then you also have to be ready to provide the world what you deserve to give. And therefore now between the person and the world is a symbiotic relationship of give and take. It is not a relationship of extraction, dominance. but it is a symbiotic relationship. You have to understand the relationship of the organs of the body with the body, in the sense, let us consider the heart and all the limbs of the body, all the parts of the body. Now the body will supply the heart what it needs, and therefore the heart supplies the body what the body needs, because that is the only role a heart can play. Heart cannot play the part of the brain, heart cannot play the part of the lungs, heart cannot play the part of the kidney or liver. Heart will have to play its own part, its own role. And thus, when the heart is able to play its own role, in return, the heart also gets what it deserves to get. And therefore, there is a very healthy symbiotic relationship between the part and the whole, between the part and the body. Therefore, when a person sees himself in this world, understand that you are a part of this world. Not that the world is against you, not that you have to dominate the world, prove the world, you have to be the boss, you have to be, head over shoulders. No need. Every part is important when it comes to its own role. Heart is important, liver is important, lungs are important, brain is important. Including the bladder, the rectum, everything has its own part, a role, and therefore every part is equally important. Therefore, now, when one understands the role that one has to play, then let that role, understanding that role, will make you aware of your own duty. Thus, when a person performs the duty, that what is required by the world is naturally provided by you, and therefore now the world provides what you need. What you need and what you want are two different things. What you want, what you desire, is a purely the part of your ambition, ego appeasement, sense appeasements. What you need is what will be provided, because that is best. What is needed is what the person really deserves and has to have. What you desire is something different. What you desire, what you hanker after, can be even ignored, because that is not the need. So when a person now understands his relationship with the world will definitely provide what you need. The world will also provide you what you desire. Only thing is, you will have to comply by those rules. Okay? You will have to comply, you will have to simply follow the rules, niyama, anushasana, niyati. So now, in different words, when a person discovers that the body that he is endowed with is also the part of the world, the mind, the senses, everything is the part of this world. Thus, in different words, it means he finds he is connected to God, that is the source, like an unseen umbilical cord, which is going to nourish. Recognizing this cord, recognizing this relationship between you and God. Now, this is not just relationship with the physical world. The world is the body of the God. And therefore, though you are interacting with the world, you are actually connecting yourself to God. And hence, now a person, his every interaction becomes a form of a prayer, because between God and you, what is there? This particular relationship is between the devotee and Bhagavan. There is bhakti. This is the cord. This is the umbilical cord. It is that umbilical cord between the mother and the child. The mother communicates with the child communicates with the mother nourishes the baby. And therefore, now this person, though interacting with the world, acting in the world, discovers himself surrounded by God. This connection between you and God is then the prayer. The connection between the devotee and God is the connection of prayer. Generally, people understand prayer simply means, constantly nagging God to give you something that you desire, whether you deserve it or you don't deserve it, is irrelevant. But like a stubborn child, you keep on nagging, I want it, I want it, I want it, I want it. And therefore, a lot of time you will find that people have complained against God that I have prayed, but I did not get what I wanted. Because the meaning of your prayer was placing only a demand list. Where was the love? Where is the discovery of the person finding himself merged with totality? Therefore, that is, though the person now who is placing a demand list and therefore says that I'm praying to God, is still immature, like a child who's immature, who doesn't understand why the mother does not give him more candies and insists that the child should eat proper food. You see, I'm asking for candies and you're giving me food. That's not what I want. And so the child is angry at the mother. And so the child says the mother does not listen to me. So this is immaturity. Maturity would be in understanding that how you already are being taken care by the totality. You are not separate from totality, you are not against the totality is not against you. And therefore you have resolved the conflict. Whom would you call as a mature person? A person who is able to resolve conflicts. So the person now who has resolved the conflicts between himself and the totality, because now he finds that he is an integral part of the totality, non-separate. The body is the part of the total physical world. The mind, the psychology is the part of the total mind. And as much as you are able to discover this oneness, tadatmyam, with the totality, the painful ego, individuality softens. Where it softens, now that very source where it has softened becomes a place for the totality to throb even more powerfully. And therefore, those saints and sages who have thus discovered their oneness with God, and therefore then everybody is able to see the visible divinity over there. This divinity is not something that is projected. People are made to believe, no. There is something which is very beautiful, wonderful about such a person, because the ego is dissolved or is so sublime that it does not become a hurting ego. Therefore, now Avanti, understand what is a prayer. Prayer is connection between you and God. Therefore, it is dependent upon what you discover yourself as, and what you want is what your prayer is. The second part of your question is that if God is going to give you what you deserve, then why should you pray for? If you have understood that prayer is your song of love, just as the baby is delighted in the mother's lap, now your prayer is not give me this and give me that. It is simply a prayer, a song of joy. A famous saint or poet of Maharashtra says, Ananda se dodi Ananda. You are in resonance with God, and therefore now it is not any demand, anything, but it is simply a song of joy, a song of love. When this is thus, we call it bhakti. We call it devotion. When it is simply demand, and because I am demanding, God is supposed to supply, then this is not outrageous, but this is immature. And if you get what you deserve, why should you pray? Just because you got what you deserve. Why should we do homa, etc., all these karmas? Because there is a scheme in which, when followed, the desires also get fulfilled. Say, suppose on a hot summer day, you want to have something that is cooling, cold, and nice. So then, obviously, you walk into an ice cream parlor and buy yourself some little ice cream. You buy yourself ice cream. You had a desire, and in order to fulfill the desire, you had to follow a scheme of action. Maybe the ice cream parlor was across the road. And therefore, now before you can cross the road, you will have to look left and right. Check whether the signal is you can cross or not, or are there vehicles running. And so now you will have to. So somebody is going to ask, why should I look at the vehicles coming and going? I simply want ice cream. I can walk into the parlor. No, sir. These are the parts of fulfilling. This is the scheme. So even checking the vehicles is also a part which is going to take you to the parlor. Then actually walking and crossing the road is also a part of your fulfillment of that desire. So understand that when there are desires, then in order to fulfill the desire, there is a scheme of action. And if those actions are properly fulfilled, now there are greater chances of you fulfilling the desire. Now, even when you have done those actions, there is always going to be that proverbial gap between the cup and the lips. That means, though you may cross and you may go. But when you arrive on the door of that, you find that there is a sign put up that it is closed from this time to this time, which you had not seen from the other side. So though you did everything and yet you were not able to fulfill that desire. Similarly, we will do all these actions as prescribed by the scriptures too. Yet do not forget that we already have come with the load of our past papa and punya karmas. Now, those papa karmas of our past may arrive and sit over here as an obstacle, not allowing you to have what you desire, though you have done what the prescribed karma. And therefore, in order to remove those papa karmas, then you have yet another karma to do. Therefore, a prayer is basically something that will spring from your heart when you have understood your relationship with God. A prayer will be a scheme of action if you want the totality to fulfill your desire. And therefore, those schemes of actions, we call them as vihita karma, the karma, the actions prescribed by the scriptures. Therefore, we do home, etc. Why should we pray if God gives us what we deserve? Because you discover that you are getting not what you deserve. If you understand that, yes, I'm getting what I deserve, then there will be no conflict. In absence of conflict, the person he will be at peace with himself. He will be at peace with the world. Now, whatever then he has to do with the world will be a very beautiful, a joyous experience. And when there is joy, there is obviously love flowering. And if you think that all you have got till now is what you deserve, then the person has a very outrageous image about himself. Just think about all the comforts and everything that one has received in life. And look at the world outside. Are there not people who are more intelligent, more deserving, and yet they do not have what you have? And therefore, on what scale do you say that I should not be grateful? On what, by what standards does one say that I should not even thank God for giving me whatever the life that He has given? Therefore, hey, prayer is a wonderful thing which you have in life. Just don't use it only as your demand and list of demand and supply. God is not obliged because you pray. God is not obliged even because you believe. Don't believe. There are people who do not believe and yet they are able to conduct their lives. But believing means now understanding your relationship with totality allows the ego to be evaporated, to be sublimated, to be dissolved. This dissolution of the ego is meditation in action. And therefore, now the peace, the joy, the love which is there is the result of the prayer. And therefore, prayer is indeed a great instrument at our disposal. All right, I think this should do.
Thank you, Swamiji, for explaining this in detail. Rajesh ji, I see you online. Would you like to ask your question yourself? Thank you.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Hey, Swamiji, my question, I think you answered my question a little bit earlier today. My question was, but I think we can go in more detail. My question was,
Rajesh, you have to speak slowly because, your voice is also echoing.
Okay, okay, sorry, Swamiji. Yes, so I think you answered my question a little bit earlier today, but I think we can go in a little bit more detail. My question was, how do we define, how do we know who is qualified to be a Gyani? And you had mentioned that a person who seeks only knowledge, only Gyan, or exclusive of everything else, is a is qualified to be a Gyani. Uh, but but the problem is that mind is deceptive. It may make you feel one thing someday, make you feel the other thing another day, and that's a practical problem. I'm trying to understand how to understand that.
We will break this question. We will take this first part of yours, and if the time permits, then we will have the next part of the question. Okay, let us look at this part first.
Mhm.
Is my voice echoing over here? Is it clear?
No, I can hear.
Yes,
I can
it's
hear.
clear, Swamiji. We can hear you. And Swamiji, one more thing that I want to ask, that isn't Lord has made all of us similar. So should there be conditions on who can be a Gyani and who shouldn't be a Gyani? Are there any conditions attached to it? We all I mean, we all are same in his eyes. So that's what my question is. When you teach us, you look at us all with the same eyes. So Lord has also created us perfectly with the same. So should there be any conditions on who is a adhikari and who's not?
Here we go. Rajesh, two things. Though I'm going to talk a little bit in technical terms, yet it is going to be in English, so it requires a little bit of prelude. So the Sanskrit words do not leave people wondering what it was and make it sound jargonistic. First of all, understand the difference between knowledge and the path of knowledge. Okay?
Okay.
When we say knowledge means I can claim I know the pot, I know the cloth. So Ghatajnanam, Patajnanam, is this all not knowledge? This is knowledge.
Yep.
Because I know this object, I know A, I know object B. So there is knowledge of object A, there is knowledge of object B. Yeah. So we will say Ghatajnanam, Patajnanam, so on and so forth. Similarly, there is knowledge of Brahman. So knowing Brahman, knowledge of Brahman. This is, and by the very virtue, it is also knowledge. Understand that knowledge comes to him, he who understands. He who is able to know, knowledge belongs to that person. Is not it? So there is nothing like, partiality or what do they call it? The pakshapat, what do they call it? Particism. No. Knowledge belongs, it does not matter whether you're a man or a woman, rich or poor, young or old, adult or a minor. If you are able to understand something, then that knowledge belongs to you. And therefore, the one who is able to understand then is called as the adhikari. It is not because somebody is a man or a woman, Indian or non-Indian, Hindu or not Hindu, will understand. No. He who is capable of understanding will obviously understand. How does the knowledge take place? Whichever knowledge it is, Gatashyanam, Patashyanam, or Brahmashyanam, whichever knowledge it may be, how does the knowledge take place? So we will take a simple thing to understand this fact, that I can say, I know the colors and forms in front of me. Correct? I can say. So now, with this present experience, I am able to say, I have the knowledge of colors and forms, because I know the the flower vase in front of me has white flowers over here. There is a carpet. There is the camera stand, so on and so forth. I know these colors and forms. So I have the knowledge of the colors and forms. The thing is, how did this knowledge of colors and forms take place? Because I am endowed with an equipment through which the knowledge of colors and forms take place. And that equipment through which it is happening, I'm going to say, are my eyes. Okay. So, because I have the equipment and the object in front of me, and the condition is such that the object is in optimum light. If the light was less or light was extremely bright, yet the object will not become visible, correct?
Correct.
So we have the optimum conditions in which knowledge can take place. The eyes are aligned with the object. There is light, adequate light, and therefore now I know the colors and forms. I know. So the knowledge has taken place of these colors and forms, and is not waiting for your permission to take place. Correct? If you have eyes, the object is there, and there is nothing that is obstructing you from seeing the object will be known. Whether you like that object, you don't like that object, whether you love it, adore it, irrespective of all this nonsense. So, knowledge is not dependent on the will of the person. Knowledge is not dependent on the will of the person. Knowledge simply takes place because the object has colors and forms, and you have the instrument through which knowledge of colors and forms can take place. Thus, Pramana meaning the equipment, Prameya meaning the object of knowledge. Pramanam is the equipment of knowledge. Okay, Karanam, it is the equipment. It is the instrument of knowledge. So the instrument of knowledge and the object of knowledge, if they are aligned, without anything that can part them, without anything that obstructs them. Say suppose if there was inadequate light, so there is darkness in between the eyes and the object, obviously it becomes an obstruction. The eyes are not able to establish the contact with the object, and therefore knowledge will not take place. So suppose if the light is too bright, that is what happens. You have glare when you're driving at night. If the light is too bright, still you won't be able to see, because now that light has become an obstruction. All that is required is the alignment of the instrument of knowledge and object of knowledge without any condition causing obstruction. Knowledge takes place. And therefore, knowledge is not dependent on the person. It is not waiting for the person's permission. Oh, should I know the colors and forms now or not? Oh, no. You have eyes. If the eyes are open and there is adequate light, yes, you will know. Simple as that. So knowledge takes place. Whether it is the knowledge of any common object or whether it is the knowledge of Brahman. Knowledge will take place if the Pramana and Prameya Vyavahara can take place. Okay? Pramana meaning the instrument of knowledge, Prameya meaning the object of the knowledge. If these two are there placed together, there is no difficulty in the knowledge to take place. In case where you know the pot meaning a clay pot or whatever pot, a brass pot, plastic pot, whatever pot, ghatashyanam is taking place. So over here, the ghata is the prameya, your eyes are the pramana. Okay, the pot is the prameya vastu, object, eyes are the instrument. In another case, Brahma is prameyam and the Upanishad is the pramana, Shabda is the pramana. When you have both, knowledge takes place, no problem. Tama Upanishadam Purusham Princhami, etc. We will see that at another point. So here, knowledge takes place. There is no problem. And therefore, when I said knowledge will take place in a person who understands, therefore eliminates that knowledge is meant for a particular community or there is any prejudice involved in the delivery of knowledge. No, there is nothing like that. There is nothing like that. Now, along with this, the question that Aradhana has asked, who can have knowledge? Is there an adhikari? Yes, there is an adhikari. Adhikari means the person who is capable of knowing, because now we are talking in reference to knowledge, therefore, jnanasya adhikari, which means the person who is capable of having knowledge. Who is the person who is capable of having knowledge? Let us say there is a physics professor. And he teaches the PhD students, etc., in the university. Now his son loves him very much. And he is, let us say, a 5-year-old child. Now, does that mean that being the son of a physicist, this little child is capable and deserves to know? He has the right to know? No. Who is a qualified person over there? The one who has understood the basics of physics, the higher physics, and therefore now he has come to understand the quantum physics, etc., whatever. So therefore, a person who is qualified for knowledge is something we have to look for. Who is qualified for Brahmajnanam is a different thing. We have to say a person who has certain qualities, who has prepared himself or who has these qualities, certain qualities, then can be said as to be the person who can have Brahmajnana, knowledge of Brahma. That's it. Well, having said this much, we have to understand, and therefore there is an adhikari. Of course, there is an adhikari. Okay, there is an adhikari. When it comes to karma, there is an adhikari. When it comes to upasana, there is an adhikari. When it comes to, for example, let us say, when taking medicines, don't you have the doctor sees that, can this person take this particular medicine in this measure with this intensity or not, and prescribes the medicine. Oh no, we belong to the same world. We are, everybody is equal over here in the eyes of justice, and therefore, why are you giving him more medicine and less to me? Because you don't require that much, or you cannot take that much. Your body won't be able to sustain it, and it may have adverse effect. Instead of giving you nourishment and health, it may cause you have something adverse. And therefore now the doctor, looking upon the person, his frame of the body, weight, age, etc., the disease or whatever, now prescribes the medicine. So over here, even when it comes to the prescription of the medicines, you see that there are certain standards against which the adhikari is seen. So yes, there is adhikari. There is adhikari. Who is an adhikari for Brahmajnana? We will see that. And what is the result of Brahmajnana? Brahmajnana means it is the knowledge. As knowledge can do only one thing, and that is put an end to ignorance. Knowledge can put an end to ignorance. Knowing Brahman can put an end to the ignorance about Brahman. But what happens if this ignorance has ended? It means that it is absolute freedom from suffering. And therefore, liberation is the result of knowledge. Therefore, every person who wants liberation should strive for knowledge. Striving for knowledge also would mean that he qualifies himself for the knowledge. If he finds that there are certain things which are required for knowledge to take place and which I lack, then he strives to develop those qualities, whether it is emotional maturity, whether it is the resolution of conflicts inside, whether it is the amount of unnecessary involvement with the world, avoiding the unnecessary involvement. All these things are. So now the person has to see that what is it that is lacking and what is it I need to develop so that I can be qualified for knowledge which ultimately leads to moksha, accomplishment of moksha purushartha, liberation. Well, if this much is understood, now you have understood something about knowledge. Now, talking about the path of knowledge, look at that. Path of knowledge does not mean that you stop understanding. A path of knowledge, I mean, when you are saying that I don't know whether I am qualified for not path of knowledge or not, it does not mean that you stop understanding. Well, you continue to, because understanding means that there is going to be a greater degree of clarity, a greater degree of clarity, and that a person, otherwise what else is development and progress of a person? What else is progress of a person? Hmm?
Yeah. No,
Progress
makes
of,
sense.
huh?
No, makes sense. Swamiji, sorry to interrupt in between. I know we have 2 minutes left, and I have several follow-ups on what you just said. So I was wondering, how do we go about this?
Hmm?
I was just saying that we only have 2 minutes left, and I had several follow-ups from what you just mentioned. How do we go about this?
How do we go about this? That is the whole subject matter of the third chapter. That
Mhm.
is the subject matter of the third chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Karma Yoga. Because Arjuna's question is also the same thing, that yes, it is the knowledge through which liberation takes place. And the path of knowledge means Sarva Karma Sannyasa. But you are asking me to do karma and not do the karma tyaga.
Right,
Why
right.
so? So Shri Krishna over here, the whole intention of the teacher is to convey that karma can become your karma becomes, in fact, there is no other way. Karma becomes your instrument through which you can make yourself qualified for knowledge. And qualified for knowledge means where the knowledge now reaches the point where it can actually fructify, where it can deliver what it is supposed to deliver. That it can give its phalam, where it can fructify. What is the fruit? What is the final thing? Liberation. When will it happen? When you are qualified. And therefore, it is that understanding the path of knowledge is yet another issue, but I think we will deal it in when we meet next for another question answer. But remember, knowledge and part of knowledge, you have to understand these two things. Knowledge part you have understood. Now, what remains for us to understand is the path of knowledge. But path of karma is not opposed to path of knowledge. It is like, what? Ganga comes from the Himalayas and goes to the Bay of Bengal. On the way, Yamuna, Saraswati, Hooghly have hundreds of rivers that come and meet Ganga. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then finally become Ganga to meet the Bay of Bengal, the ocean. Similarly, even the karma will become helpful and will become merged into the path of knowledge. Just as Yamuna Saraswati merges in Ganga to become Ganga, so also your path of karma now takes you towards liberation. Okay? But till then, we have to understand what is the path of knowledge. We will see that when we meet next.
Thanks so much.
Right. Thank you, Rajesh.
Thank you, Swamiji. Thank you, Swamiji. It was a very, very session full of deep knowledge. We have got a lot of contemplation to do. And as Rajesh ji, I also have so many thoughts that I want to clarify with you, maybe in the later session. We all
Yeah.
are, Swamiji, here I feel that all of us are Arjuna in one form or other, but we have found a Lord Krishna in you who's going to help us on this path. Our next session is slotted, question answer session is slotted for 28th of May. But however, if we have got questions, we can always send them in to Swamiji or to me, and Swamiji will try to answer them during his discourses. And thank you, Swamiji, once again for giving us this time. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashyakrito Vande Bhagavanto Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti मूर्तिभेद विभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्त देहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. Thank you very much.